This is my few Zamasu Immortal Gogeta burn deck. One copy of the leader. 4 SS Blue Gogeta. 4 Android 17 Turning the Tide. 4 Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta Rising Silverware. 4 Gohan Baby's Minion. 4 SS3 Goku Overflowing Spirits. 4 SS Vegeta. 4 Goku and Vegeta. Same synergy. 4 Gowasu Zamasu's Master. 4 Shenron Figure of Majesty. 4 Chota Army's Reinforcement. 4 Dimension Magic. 4 All Too Easy. 4 Raditz Giant Force. 4 SS Gotenks After the Unison. 4 SS4 Goku Protector of the Earth. So the idea here is that we're trying to incorporate some form of life gain, so to speak, with the combination of Gowasu, Zamasu's Masters effect when you combo it, along with the effect of Shenron's Figure of Majesty. They have some pretty good synergy with each other, because Shenron has the ability that you draw a card when you have 5 or less, 5 or more cards in your drop area. You draw a card, and then you can bring back a battle card with energy cost 2 or less from your drop onto the battlefield, right? And we can bring back, obviously, Gowasu because he's a 2-drop, and Gowasu has the auto that when you combo with this card, and your leader card is blue, which it is, you may choose one card from your hand, place it into the drop area, so discard it, right? And if you do, then you trigger this card. This card has 2 effects, but you're going to do the first effect, which is to grab up to 3 battle cards with energy cost 3 or more power, 3 or more cost, and power of 35k or less from your drop area, and then place it at the bottom of your deck in any order. So this is the way you're going to put cards from your drop area back into your deck, because once you awaken with your leader, your deck becomes your health bar, as it were, right? It becomes your life. So every time you take damage, you take the top 5 cards of your deck and send it to the drop. So using Gowasu to put some of those cards back into your deck is essentially like gaining life, because as long as you can keep putting cards back in your deck, you can afford, right, as it were, to keep taking hits. You can afford to mill 5 cards here and there, because you're always putting at least 3 cards back at a time. Now, in order to mitigate 1 damage, as it were, you need to use Gowasu's effect twice, right? So that we put 6 cards back in the deck to mitigate the the milling 5 cards per damage thing. So it's a basic thing to keep in mind. So there's that. Of course, Gowasu you can combo from your hand, so it's obviously really good. You can use it defensively, especially if your opponent's trying to go for game. They're trying to double strike you, and let's say you have like 10 cards left in your deck, and they're about to deal you, obviously make you mill 10 cards, so you would deck out. You can combo this. Obviously, it's not going to be enough to out-combo that attack, but all you really need to do is put 3 cards back. So when you mill 10, right, because now you have 13 cards in your deck, when you mill 10, you'll still have 3 cards left in your deck, which is, really awesome. So I definitely use this, as defensively, right? I use it as a defense by putting putting 3 cards back in my deck to prevent myself from decking out from my own leader's ability. And then, of course, using Shenron Figure of Majesty, I can start, using that as an engine and keep putting stuff back. So, of course, if I have 2 Shenron Figure of Majesties in play, because his active main is not limit 1, it's just a basic once per turn, so that's once per turn for each copy. So if I have 2 Shenron Figure of Majesty, I can obviously bring back 2 Gowasu's a turn, plus draw 2 cards a turn, right? And then pitch those 2 cards for, both Gowasu's abilities, and then put back 6 cards and, keep that little engine going. So, not super perfect per se, but it's a good little basic engine. It's better to have it, right, and not need it than to need it and not have it, right? So this is our basic way of keeping ourselves in the game longer, because once your deck hits 0, right, or your life, as it were, hits 0, the game is over. But this is a way to try to keep in the game longer, and they'll go obviously up keeping yourself in the game longer, right? The immortality aspect of this deck is so you can play ultimately your Gogeta, Frenzy Burst, and then use his active main to send up to 4 cards from your opponent's life to the bottom of the deck. And hopefully if they have 4 less cards in their life, they will lose the game right then, right? So essentially burn, and that's the Gogeta burn part of the deck. So the leader, active main, you don't really use this effect, but active main once per turn, choose 1 card from your life, place it into the drop area, and then take the, if the card you place to the drop area was a blue card, then draw a card from your life. Draw a card from your deck. So basically, credit a life and then draw essentially. For this deck, it's roughly mono blue, but we don't use this unless you're already, like, let's say you have 3 life, then you would trigger this effect just so you can get to 2 life so you can awaken. Because once you're awakened, when you swing at the leader, you get to draw, so that would be the main reason you want to do that. Plus, when you awaken, you do draw 2 cards. So draw 2 cards, and then you end up on your awakened side. So you can potentially draw about 4 cards that turn, right? 2 for awakening, 1 for the active main, because you cost yourself to be able to self-awakening. And then when you swing with the leader on the awakened side, you draw a card, so you could potentially get 4 cards right there and then, just by critting in life. So that'd be pretty much the only time you'll actually trigger that effect, per se. And like I said, when you have 2 or less life, that's when you can awaken by drawing 2 cards and flipping this card over. Permanent, if damage is dealt to your life, whether it be a burn damage or battle damage, you take the top 5 cards of your deck and send it to a drop, and that's for every damage. So if you take double strike damage, that's 10 cards, triple strike damage, that's 15, quadruple strike damage, that's 25. If you take 1 or 2 burn damage, that's 5 or 10 cards per damage, right? So there's that. And then we have the auto, when this card attacks, you draw a card, right? So there's that. So S's Blue Gogeta Frenzy Burst. Definitely one of my favorite cards. It's my boy. Alright, so he's 35k, 10 drop with barrier, which is awesome. That means he's immune to Charismatic Villain Frieza and other cards similar to that, because he has barrier, which is nice to have barrier. Then we don't EX evolve and we don't trigger his auto, so all he is a 35k with barrier, 10 drop with the active main, which is the most important part. Once per turn, if you have 15 or more energy, choose up to 4 of your opponent's life and place it at the bottom of the deck in any order. So that is the burn, so you have to have 15 or more cards. He's already a 10 drop, so obviously we hard casting him, so we're paying 10 to play him. But we'll need 15 in order to trigger his active main so we can win. And the way we try to ramp up to that is with Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, Rise of the Super Warrior. Now typically I want to combine Vegeta with Senzu Bean. Typically that's what I like to do, is combine him with Senzu Bean, because I use Senzu Bean as a ramp card, especially with cards like Vegeta, for example. So that's what I like to do. But in this build, I'm not using Senzu Bean. But if you want to use Senzu Bean with him for the ramp, the Senzu Bean ramp strategy, then you can, you could probably take out the Dimension Magic to do so. That's up to you. I just still want to play Dimension Magic, because I'd rather just have more defense that are essentially free. You never know. So I have no problem waiting an extra turn to play double Vegeta. But there is a strategy to play 2 Vegetas in 1 turn. But I have no problem playing them 1 turn, stalling, playing them again the next turn, right? And going from there. So that's the route I'm going. We have our secondary win con, because Gogeta is our main win con, because he's awesome. But our secondary win con, so that we have 8 win cons in the deck, is our Android 17 Turning the Tide, obviously 30k deflect critical. Although when you play this card, choose all cards in your opponent's hand and your opponent's all the cards in your hand and your opponent's hand, and all the battle cards in their drop area, and then shuffle them back into the deck. So both you and your opponent are going to lose your hand, and your opponent's going to lose the battle cards in the drop area, which might hurt a lot of certain decks that benefit from battle cards in the drop area. And then, of course, since your opponent has no hand, if you attack, and this has crit, so you attack with this to your opponent's leader, obviously they add no card from their life to their hand, and then you can attack with your leader to their leader and deal the final damage. So your opponent's at 2 life. This is a simple way to get your opponent down to 0 life. Attack with this, attack with leader, and gain basic stuff. So that's why you say he's another win con. Then we have SS4 Gogeta, Rise of the Spore, of course, 30k blocker with the auto that if you leave your cards mono blue, which it is, when you play it, look at the top 4 cards of your deck. If it's all mono blue, you can put them onto your life, onto your energy area in active mode, right? Or put some on the bottom of your deck or whatnot, but I always just ramp all 4 energy. We do have 1 black card in the deck, so keep that in mind, that could pop up. And if you do get this to the effect, you'll end up putting this at the bottom of your deck. Or you can put it on top of your deck if you want, so that way you can draw it the following turn and then be able to use it to do its do its effect, sparking ability, start doing some fun stuff, right? So there's that auto, and then it has a second auto at the end of your turn, special attack mode, which allows you to use this nice 30k beat stick, right, to start attacking things. And since it's a blocker, having it go back in attack mode at the end of your turn, so you can block with it is always useful. So 30k sword and shield is always awesome with the ramp ability. Badass. So definitely a fun card to play with. Then we have Go On, Baby's Minion. Go On, Baby's Minion. Counter attack, negate the attack and play this card. Then it has Servant, so it gets a 10k boost, so it's a 25k body. Auto, when this card is played, your opponent can't attack for the turn unless they choose 1 card from the hand and place it at the bottom of the deck. So it's a floodgate negate. So I love that. Then we have SS3 Goku, Overflowing Spirit. Counter attack, your card's mono blue, which it is, negate the attack. Then choose up to 1 of your blue unison cards in your unison area or drop area and return it to your hand. So this is a good way of getting any of your unisons from your drop back to your hand that you might need. Typically, SS4 Goku, Protector of the Earth, is the main target for that. So you definitely want to be able to play this and trigger its auto. Plus its -2 ability. It's a nice board wipe. So this will help you get to your unison if your unisons ever end up in the drop, or just reuse them from the unison area. So there's that. We have Vegeta. It's just Vegeta thwarting the enemy, counter attack, limit 1, so you can pay 1 of him a turn. Your leader card is blue, negate the attack and play this card in rest mode. If you negated your opponent's leader's attack with this card skill, then your opponent can't attack with their leader for the remainder of the turn, which is good against leaders that typically will try to attack twice. So this will prevent the leader from attacking twice that turn. So that's really good in that regard. Then it has the permanent that you can activate this card's counter skill for free if you spirit boost to this card, which means taking 2 markers off a unison. So yeah, some unisons you can take counters off of in order to play this for free. So it's essentially a free negate because we're going to mainly use it with our while we have a unison, so player unisons. Obviously most of our unisons are blockers. A lot of our unisons are defensive, so we'll put them on board to defend ourselves with, and this is just extra defense in that situation. So if we're tapped out, at least we can always rely on this, and you never know what kind of situation we're in where this can save our butts, right? So it's a really good free negate, essentially. Then we have Goku and Vegeta saying synergy, counter attack, negate the attack, and then play this card in rest mode. Auto, if your leader card is blue, which is place this card, and you place this rest mode card at the bottom of your deck. When your opponent attacks your leader card, choose up to one of your leader cards and get 5k power for the duration turn. So not only can it negate an attack, it can Senzu Bean. So if you use this to negate an attack and then your opponent attacks your leader, put this card at the bottom of your deck, and then now your leader gets a 5k boost for the duration turn, which is extra defense, which is always nice to have. Now, if I had Senzu Bean, it would, this would be good to combine with Senzu Bean to get that added, boost, and making my leader 25k on the awakening side will always be good defense. That's all you really want, is always to reduce how many times your opponent can attack, deal you damage, and get that extra turn. So stuff like this is useful. So, and the added benefit of this card that's really awesome is that you notice I said it goes to the bottom of the deck in order to get that Senzu Bean ability, which is really nice because it going back to the bottom of the deck means that's one more card in your deck that will prevent you from decking out. So essentially, you're gaining some life with that. So it's really awesome that it goes back into the deck. So hopefully later on you can use it to negate an attack and then go back to the bottom of the deck and just keep that cycle going over and over again, right? We already mentioned Duel, so you combo with it and then you use the first effect of choosing up to 3 battle cards if energy costs 3 or more and put it at the bottom of the deck. So obviously the targets for that will be Gogeta, 117, the same for Vegeta, Gohan Baby's minion, so Shenron Fairy Majesty will also count for the effect. It says battle card, doesn't say blue battle card, so these are 4, 5. There's 5 targets in here for this card's effect. And then of course Shenron Fairy Majesty, permanent can't attack, active main once per turn, sparking 5, draw a card, choose one of these 3 abilities, untap 2 of your energy and switch into active mode, or choose a battle card with energy cost 2 or less and bring it back from your drop to the battle area, or choose your leader card or one of your battle cards and it gets 5k power and critical for the duration of the turn. So that's nice, but we're mainly going to use this obviously more so for the bringing back a battle card to cost or less so we can do its thing. So this is mainly to combine with Kawasu so we can have that little anti-mill engine basically, or that's life gain engine. Chill's Army, reinforcements. Counter attack, if your leader card's mono blue, which it is, negate the attack and play a Chill's Army token with 10k power and it gains blocker for the duration turn. Permanent, if your life is 5 or less, you can take a card from your life, add it to your hand, and play this card for free. So of course, and this is not once per turn, so if, it's not limit 1, so you could use multiple copies of these in a turn if you, have enough life to take a life per copy. So nice free potential defense right there. That's something to keep in mind. We have the Venture Badger. Counter attack. If your leader card is blue, negate the attack, then choose up to 2 of your energies and switch them to blue energies and switch them to active mode. So it's always good to be able to untap energy so that you can use other negates in case you can't play this card for free. Because let's say you played this for free, as it were, you took a life, so now you only have 1 life left. But because it untaps 2 energies, you can use those 2 energies for chill time as reinforcement, so you can negate attack and get a blocker, so you can block that secondary attack. So you can potentially stop 3 attacks for just by taking 1 life, right, and playing Dimensional Magic with Sparking 5 effect. Then we have All Too Easy. Counter attack. Your leader card is blue. Negate the attack. Choose up to one of your opponent's battle card for energy cost of 1 and return to one's hand. Permanent. If this card is in your drop area, you can activate it. You can activate it by paying the energy cost of the card and removing this card and a blue card from your hand to the warp from the game in order to play this. And auto, you can only activate this card. When you activate this card, you can only activate 1 copy of this card per turn. So you only get 1 time to play All Too Easy in the turn. So it's a really good graveyard negate and works well with this deck. Reddit's Giant Force, 19k blocker. Auto, when you activate the blocker skill, you switch this card back to active mode. That way you can block with it twice, of course. +0 active main ability, draw a card, then switch this card to active mode. That allows you to attack and then play this effect to draw a card and then switch the card to active mode during the end phase, so that way you can block with it twice in your opponent's turn. Sword Shield strategy. -2 ability, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, return to the owner's hand. Then at the end of your turn, switch one of your blue energies to active mode, so that way you can try to keep your defense up. So you can obviously block 2 attacks with this card. You already got rid of a battle card on your opponent's side of the field, so that's one less attack you got to worry about, and you untap 1 energy, which can be useful for playing any of your Gokus, Gogetas, or Dimension Magic. We're all too easy in that situation, and keep your defenses up. It's all about surviving turns. It's your way of ramping to your win con is by surviving turns. The more turns you have, the more chances you have of winning. This deck definitely is good at giving you more chances, more turns. So I love that. SS Gotenks Absolute Unison, dual attack, blocker, 20k, -2 ability to draw 2 cards. Then has its -3 ability, activate, choose up to 2 of your opponent's backers, ignore and bury, which is important, and place them at the bottom of your opponent's deck in any order, which is a really awesome effect to have. So that's sort of useful. Because putting cards at the battle cards of your opponent, the bottom of your opponent's deck is definitely the best place to put cards. You don't want it in the drop or in the hand or anything like that, because they can always, access the card and play it again. These 20k with dual attack, so you can obviously attack with them, restand them with his dual attack ability, and then use them to block a Sword and Shield strategy, or you can attack with him twice because he is 20k. You can, use them to take down unisons, attack your opponents later twice, that kind of good stuff. So it's always good to have the ability to attack more than once, especially if you're going to use them as a finisher. You could attack 2 battle cards with this card, to get rid of 2 of your opponent's battle cards. Then use the -3 ability to get rid of 2 more battle cards, so you could potentially clear your opponent's board with this. So it kind of works like a board wiper usually. And then we have SS for Goku, Protector of the Earth. Auto, when this card is played during your opponent's next turn, they can't attack with battle cards unless they choose one of their battle cards with energy cost 2 or more and place it at the bottom of their deck per attack. And then it has the -2 ability that we like to use, which is choose all your opponent's battle cards, ignore and bury, which is important, right, and return them to the owner's hand. So not only we're going to make it hard for them to attack us next turn with their battle cards, we're going to bounce them back to their hand, so they're going to have to try to replay them. Hopefully they cost energy, so that way your opponent can't replay them. If they're free, then that was kind of pointless, but at least you have the auto, which will make it harder for them to attack. Not impossible, but just harder. Of course, their unison and their leader can still attack, so keep that in mind. Don't play this and expect your opponent won't be able to attack, because their unison and their leader can still attack, so make sure you have a way of defending yourself after playing this. And of course, this can help you get to your next turn to be able to drop your, Gogeta and go for game that way, or your Android 17 kind of tide. So usually this is a good card to set up, because you play and you're setting up your next turn, so basically it's a time walk. So playing this technically gives you an extra turn, which is always good to have an extra turn. Like I said, extra turn means an extra chance of winning, which is the whole goal. So always try to win. So -1 ability, active main, draw 2 cards, then choose 1 card from your hand and place it at the bottom of your deck. So you can draw 2 cards and then put a card back at the bottom of your deck, so that way slow down the possibility of you decking yourself out, right? But we barely use that effect. Sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. I mainly use the -2 ability. The fact that it costs 4 to play this, like specified for blue to play this, you can pay 4 to play this, obviously, right? Do the -2, to clear your opponent's board, but then use the last 2 markers on this card in order to play your SS Vegeta, thwarting the enemy, for sparking, for spirit boost effect, so that way you can, negate a unison or leader attack. They can still attack with unison or leader. So keep that in mind. So there's that synergy there. Go tanks, you can do a similar thing where you play this for 4, -2 to draw 2 cards and keep your hand nice and thick, and then attack with it, restand it because it has full attack, and then use it to block because it is a blocker, and then after you use it to block, if it still has 2 markers, then you can remove the 2 markers to play SS Gogeta to stop another attack. So you can potentially stop 2 attacks off of playing this card along with Gogeta, of course. So there's synergy there. Obviously, you can get a similar ability with Raditz, because typically just when you play him, you use the +0 ability to draw it and switch him back to active mode. So you normally will still have the 3 markers on him, so you can sacrifice 2 to play this thing for free. So that way you block 2 attacks with this, and then use this to block a 3rd attack. So you can potentially block 3 attacks with those 2 cards combined. And that is the end of the video.